Monday, actress Hope Lang visits live at 5. See you then.
An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Now, Shotty LaRue from my son's favorite show on CBS, which was just picked up again, Frank's Place.
Episode 570, submission 2605. The 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game aired on the NBC television network on the night of August 9th of 1981. Now, folks, you're wondering, Greg, isn't the Major League Baseball All-Star Game always in the middle of July every year? And you said it was August 9th. Yes, and there's a reason for that. Mike, can you tell us why this All-Star Game held in your area at Cleveland Municipal Stadium was held in early August?
There was a little strike that year.
Yes. So Major League Baseball went on strike. And so that kind of hurt things for a while. It lasted from June 12th to July 31st. But the strike was settled. So as a way to make it up to the fans, Major League Baseball decided to kick off the second half of the season and the return of Major League Baseball. We'll have the All-Star Game on August 9th as a prelude to start the second half. So there was a lot of mystery into this. The players hadn't played for like 2 months, and nobody knew what reaction players were going to get. Were they going to be booed? Were they going to be cheered for coming back? I don't know. And there's like a lot of mystery because Bryant Gumbel on the pregame show talks about what is going to be the reaction that all these players are going to face when they step onto the field. Well, Mike, what do you think the reaction was?
You know, if I look back at 1995 after the lockout and all that stuff that happened that canceled the 1994 World Series, there was a lot of disdain. I don't know if you got that level of disdain because you had a World Series in 1980 and 81, but I'm sure some fans are like, yeah, we didn't have baseball for a month and a half.
Yeah, but you know what? It's good to have at least an All-Star Game out of it. At least you didn't have it canceled. And I'm sure it was great for your area, too, that you got to have an All-Star Game there.
Yeah, and there's so much that happens in preparation for an All-Star Game. You can't just, like, I don't want to say cancel it. Well, I mean, you can cancel it. It's not one of those things where it just appears overnight. You spend literally years preparing for it. You've got signage in the ballpark. You've got different merchandise that they want to sell. I mean, I'm wearing 2 examples of All-Star merchandise right here. The All-Star Game cap from 2015 in Cincinnati and one of the All-Star Game shirts for Cleveland in 2019. And I remember even like 2017 when I went to Progressive Field, they had that big guitar logo not really in left field. It was sort of like in the foul area to the left of left field. But they had that on display like 2 years before the game was even going to be played.
So let's get into the 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And let's talk about the players that were on both of the teams, starting with the starting lineups of the National League and the American League. So first off, we go to the National League, and the starting pitcher was somebody who in the first half of the season took America by storm, Fernando Valenzuela.
That was the big story of 1981. Fernando Mania just went wild. And RIP because he just passed away within the last year.
And really, who didn't have Fernando Mania? Even if you were out of market, you came down with Fernando Mania.
Yes. Okay, catching for the National League in his 4th All-Star Game from the Montreal Expos, Gary Carter. And he would have a big day this day in Cleveland on this night. So let's see. He would be, when did he go to the Mets? It would be 4 years after that. And the Expos had a really good year in 81 because they made it all the way to the NLCS that year. Because this was a strike year, they had the division separated by halves. So you had a first half champion in the East and a second half champion in the East, and similar to the West, and they would play each other in what would be the first ever division series, which of course wouldn't continue until 95 when they expanded the divisions in MLB from 2 to 3, and they added the wild card to go with it. Okay, playing first base in his 15th All-Star game from the world champion Philadelphia Phillies, Pete Rose. And I believe they showed on the telecast, and I think I shared this in the pre-show with you guys, that he was playing in his 5th different position in the All-Star game, which was a record.
Yeah, during the broadcast, they kind of made a passing joke about if he wanted to stay in the league for a little bit longer, maybe he could play a 6th position.
That would be true if he went to the AL. He could have played DH.
Yep. There was one interesting stat that I found during the telecast is they mentioned that going into this game, he was tied with Stan Musial, 3rd all-time in hits with 36-30. So me and Mike looked it up and we figured, okay, we know he finished with 4,256 hits. So he probably averaged from 81 to 86, at least 100 hits.
And also, as we mentioned again before the show, he would have primarily been a part-time player at that point because he was well into his 40s.
By 86, you mean?
Well, not even that. I mean, looking at Baseball Reference, 81 was his age 40 year. So he was in his 40s basically all of 1981 to the end of his career. He was born April 14th.
Playing second base from the Los Angeles Dodgers in his 4th All-Star game, Davey Lopes.
One of those good base stealers back in the day.
Oh, he was a very speedy person at the base paths. At third base for the National League in his 6th All-Star game, Michael Jack Schmidt. And let's not forget 2 things. First, he was in the George Will Sports Machine sketch on SNL. And second of all, he was involved in one of the greatest bits in that Christmas episode of It's Always Sunny with Derek Waters, where he said, "Who's Mike Schmidt?" And then Von Hayes got brought up.
Also, and I don't know if Greg has seen this, but Mike Schmidt does a lot of signings nowadays, and I'm just blown away because he shaved off that iconic mustache of his. You wouldn't know it's Mike Schmidt without that mustache.
Yeah. It's like a couple of years ago when Keith Hernandez shaved off his mustache. It's like, no, why would you shave off your mustache? That's what you're known for.
But also Mike Schmidt, one of the nicest autographs. I pulled out an autographed card of his maybe about 2 years ago. It is flowing. It's not like the autographs nowadays, which is like first initial, last initial, or some squiggle. It's beautiful and flowing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. At shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds in his 8th All-Star game, Dave Concepcion. He was a good player for those Big Red Machine teams. So now let's go into the outfield. In his 1st All-Star game from the Montreal Expos, the Hawk, Andre Dawson.
Awesome, Dawson.
Speaking of beautiful flowing signatures.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They actually have his baseball with his signature in the Hall of Fame. It is one of the cleanest autographs I have ever seen on a baseball.
I have an autographed card of his from Donruss Lever and Lumber 05, Lever Cuts, and it's a very sweet signature. It is 5th All-Star game, representing the Cincinnati Reds, George Foster. And this would be his last season with Cincinnati because he would sign as a free agent with the Mets in 82. And then in his fourth All-Star game, well, from the Pittsburgh Pirates, we just lost him recently, R.I.P., Dave Parker. And really, I think I mentioned this when we did the 1990 All-Star game, because he did play in that. In fact, Dave Parker is one of 4 players that were in the 81 and 90 All-Star game, which are 2 All-Star games we've now covered on this podcast. But Dave Parker, 2 years earlier in 79, made like one of the most incredible throws to Gary Carter to tag a runner out the plate. If you have not seen that, I highly suggest you go to YouTube and find it. It is amazing. That is an amazing play. So now let's go to the American League starters. In his first All-Star game, Jack Morris. And really, what can we say about Jack Morris? About a decade later, he would have maybe one of the great performances in World Series history, that 10-inning complete game against Atlanta in Game 7. And then we go to catcher, representing for the first time for the Chicago White Sox in his 8th All-Star game, Carlton Fisk, because he would have signed with the White Sox right before spring training in 81. And funny enough, his first game as a White Sox was at Fenway Park against the Red Sox, and he hit like a big home run in the 8th inning for the White Sox to give them the lead against Boston.
Here he goes! Get right back! Please make me! It is! Holy cow! Carlton Fisk has put the White Sox ahead. A line drive. I was afraid it might not get up high enough. And the White Sox lead. Look at Fisk. Look at Fisk. Holy cow! Hit, Harry. He hit a low break. Look at the White Sox dugout. Woo! Hey!
At first base from the California Angels, Hall of Famer Rod Carew. He converted.
I don't know if I told you guys this, but when I was in Panama a couple years ago for my father's memorial, one of the things we rode past was Estadio Rod Carew.
Oh.
So it's pretty decent. It's a pretty decent place.
Playing second base in his 4th All-Star game from the New York Yankees, Willie Randolph. Obviously a legendary Yankee and former Mets manager. And then in his 6th All-Star game from the Kansas City Royals, George Brett. I wonder.
He'd be 4 years away from a World Series title.
That's right, because it would be 85. By the way, I'm keeping that in, but I was going to make a joke here with George Brett.
A pine tar joke?
No, I wasn't going to make a pine tar joke. Silly. I was going to make the other thing you think of when you think of George Brett. Hemorrhoids. You thought I was going to go for pine tar. No.
Well, I know the pine tar incident was another 2 years later, but I thought that's where you were going.
No. You might think of pine tar, but when I think of George Brett, I think of hemorrhoids. You think he got any of the blood on the barrel from the hemorrhoid?
Oh, jeez!
There it is.
A mixture of pine tar and blood on the bat. A great combination there. Okay, forget that. Boston, they're going to hate me bringing this up. Okay, his 3rd All-Star game from the Yankees, Bucky Dent, playing shortstop. Okay, y'all know what Bucky Dent did in 78, so I'm not even going to bring that up. All right, let's just go the outfield real quick. Well, we got 2 Yankees and a future Yankee broadcaster, so let me just go through the first one. In his 11th All-Star game in his final season as a Yankee, Reggie Jackson. The only player in this All-Star game who had a candy bar named after him. And then from the Baltimore Orioles in his 3rd All-Star game, Ken Singleton. And then in his 5th All-Star game from the New York Yankees, he'd have a disastrous stint in the World Series with only getting 1 hit. And then he'd have another disastrous stint on that float at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in November. Dave Winfield, and I know Mike is barely containing his laughter when I mentioned when he's saying we'll take Manhattan.
Go back to that episode. That was absolutely atrocious.
Listen, no disrespect to Dave Winfield. We love him. A Hall of Famer, great player. But clearly, somebody at the parade thought, oh, he should sing. No, he shouldn't. He's no Sammy Davis Jr. singing the Candy Man at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Go listen to that too in '82. That was freaking epic. Now let's go to the pitchers for the National League. It is 6th All-Star Game from the San Francisco Giants. Vida Blue. Oh, maybe like one of my all-time favorite baseball names right there, Vida Blue. We lost him recently a couple years ago too.
Is his name up there with Rusty Kuntz?
Not quite up there with Rusty Kuntz. You know who really loves Rusty Kuntz? Richard Christie. If you know, you know. So, in his 9th All-Star Game from the Philadelphia Phillies, Steve Carlton. I think one of the all-time, I think he's, top 5, top 10 in strikeouts all-time, Steve Carlton.
I remember, 40 years ago, maybe even a little bit less than that. I mean, Carlton pitched until, I think, 87, maybe 88. I remember there's actually, in the newspaper, every day or after every start, they were comparing Nolan Ryan's career strikeout total with Steve Carlton's, because I think they were going 1 and 2 at that point for the strikeout title of all time. I don't think Steve Carlton's number 2, but he's got to be in the top 5 because Ryan is number 1, obviously. I think 2 is Randy Johnson. And then I'm going to guess that Steve Carlton maybe 3 or 4. I'm on the case trying to look it up real fast.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, let me just say this. In his first All-Star Game from the Los Angeles Dodgers, this is a good name. Bert Hooton. Let me go on Wiki here. Bert Hooton was from 71-75 with the Cubs, played with the Dodgers from 75 to 84, and finished his last season with the Texas Rangers in 85. Was the NLCS MVP for the Dodgers in 81 against the Expos. So he turned 75 this year on February 7th. So you know what that means. February 7th of 2019 was a real nice birthday for him.
I think many players in this All-Star Game have had a very nice birthday in the last roughly 10 years or so. And I do have an answer to the Steve Carlton thing. He is 4th all-time in strikeouts. Nolan Ryan is 1st, as I said. Randy Johnson is 2nd. Roger Clemens is 3rd. And then Steve Carlton is 4th. Over 400 strikeouts above 5th place, who happens to be Bert Blyleven of all people.
Oh, Bert Behome Blyleven.
Thank you, Chris Berman.
Okay, from the Houston Astros in his first All-Star Game, Bob Knepper. I know he was around for a long time because I know Knepper was on the 86 Astros team that won the Western Division, played the Mets in the LCS. He played with the Giants from 76 to 80. He was with the Astros from 81 to 89, got traded back to the Giants in 89, and then played his last year of his career in 90. So would have been on the 89 Giants team that went to the World Series probably.
Yeah, on the Earthquake team, yeah.
Okay, Philadelphia Phillies in his second All-Star Game. This is another great name right here. Dick Ruffin. We're getting these great names here. Some of the great baseball names of all time here in Cleveland tonight. You just go for Dick Ruffin real quick. Phillies from 73 to 75, was with Atlanta from 76 to 78. Back to the Phillies from 78 to 83. And then with the Cubs from 83 to 86. This was actually his second All-Star Game because he's with Atlanta in 76 when he first made the All-Star Game.
I was looking at a line from Sports Illustrated that compared him to a young Lee Marvin.
What?
That's what the line said.
He was described looking like a young Lee Marvin. Now you made me think of that Simpsons sketch where they're watching Paint Your Wagon. Oh, Lee Marvin, he's the most roughest person of them all. You missed a spot. Okay, now we're in the big guns here. In his 6th All-Star Game for the Astros, Nolan Ryan. Because this would be his second year with the Astros because he would have signed there in 80 from California. In his 12th All-Star game with the Cincinnati Reds, Tom Seaver. In 81 would have been his next to last year with the Reds before he signed back with the Mets before the 83 season. And then in his 5th All-Star game for the St. Louis Cardinals, Bruce Sutter. And now let's go to the American League pitchers. Now I'm going to save the first one that's on top for last. But let's go with the White Sox in his first All-Star game, Britt Burns. Now, do you have any information, Mike, about Britt Burns?
In 3 years, he'll celebrate a nice birthday.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, he's a young guy at this point. He would have been 21 years old, born June 8th of 1959. And he spent all 8 years of his career with the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, that's great.
And actually, just taking a look, he was 7th in the Cy Young voting in 1981. But also in his final year, 1985, he was 7th in the Cy Young voting.
Okay. In his first All-Star game for the Minnesota Twins, Doug Corbett. So Doug Corbett was with the Twins from 80 to 82, with the Angels from 82 to 86, and with the Orioles from 87. So this would be basically the highlight of his career. Oh, wait. Born November 4th, 1952. So hold on a second. In 2021, on November 4th, he had a nice birthday. So that's fantastic. Oh, from the New York Yankees in his first All-Star game, Ron Davis. Now, you younger people might know Ron Davis best as the father of former New York Met Ike Davis. So, yeah. And actually, Mike, I think it was a year and a half ago at Hofstra, both Ron and Ike were signing. I got Ike on a, it was like a weird card of, like a Topps card of him done entirely in silk, protected by plastic. I got him to sign on the plastic part of the card. It's actually a pretty nice card when you see it signed. I'll try to find it and send you a picture sometime.
Was this an Allen and Ginter card?
It was not an Allen and Ginter card.
Okay, I've heard Allen and Ginter puts in cloth cards, sort of like what you're talking about, encased in the plastic. Never heard of like silk though. That's interesting.
But I did get Ron Davis on a 1981 All-Star game ball.
Oh, and also Greg, Ron Davis.
Yeah.
Last August, he had a very nice birthday.
Oh, that's great. Now, what can I say about this next pitcher here from the Milwaukee Brewers in his 6th All-Star game, Raleigh Fingers?
Love
But
that
just
name.
Yeah, one of the nicest mustaches of all time. When was his nice birthday, Mike?
Actually, it'll be 10 years ago on August 25th.
Oh, nice plus 10. From the California Angels, Ken Forsch. This would be his 2nd All-Star game appearance. Was with the Astros from 70 to 80. So this would be first year with the California Angels at this point. From the New York Yankees, Goose Gossage in his 6th All-Star game appearance. Hall of Famer. In his first All-Star game from Baltimore, Scott McGregor. He'd be like a key pitcher on that 83 World Series team. And then from the Oakland A's in his first All-Star game, Mike Norris. And then in his 2nd All-Star game from the Toronto Blue Jays, Dave Steve. Man, we talk about Dave Steve probably like once every 30 or so episodes.
He's an underrated pitcher from the 80s and 90s. Yeah, seriously, he was very good for a very long time. And I think because he played in Toronto, especially on teams that weren't that good back in the 80s up until like the early 90s, he didn't get the press that maybe he might have gotten in, say, a New York or a Los Angeles.
Yeah. But okay, we saved the best for last. In his first All-Star game from the Cleveland Indians. And Mike, we all know that this guy had maybe like one of the most impressive pitching performances in a game in the history of the Cleveland franchise. I'm talking about Len Barker.
He pitched the last no-hitter for the Indians/Guardians franchise on May 15th of 1981. They've gone over 44 years since their last no-hitter. That is so saddening.
It's amazing when you consider the Mets have thrown 2 no-hitters since. They didn't have a no-hitter for 50 years.
They've been close a couple of times. But actually, one thing that I found before the show that I kind of forgot I got, there is a signed picture of Len Barker from, I think this was like 2018, 2017. But the thing is, you can see there underneath his autograph, it says PG, perfect game, 5/15/81. I mean, that's what he's really known for. I mean, there's only been what, 16 perfect games in baseball history, maybe even less than that. It's a good thing to be known for.
Now, I know I have the autographs of at least 2 players that have thrown a perfect game. I have a signed ball of Don Larson's that I recently got authenticated by JSA a couple of years ago. Actually, it was last year, Hofstra. But the other one is a Topps triple thread signed card of Philip Umber.
Yeah, I remember he threw the perfect game. He did like next to nothing before and after in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally like all he's known for is this one kind of flukish perfect game.
Hey, at least Dallas Braden is an A's announcer now.
He is, and he does a pretty good job at it from what I've seen. Unfortunately, all I've got in terms of perfect game tossers, I got Len Barker, obviously, as I just mentioned, but also Dennis Martinez, and I just got him for a second time back in April at a 455 Club event here. Oh, he is beloved in Cleveland for what he did back in like 94, 95. And actually, now that I look at it, Greg, I said I had 2. I've got 5, believe it or not.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's actually 6 because just going through the list, I have in-person autographs of Kenny Rogers, David Wells, David Cohn, and then a year ago in a pack of 2024 Top Series 2, I pulled out an autograph card of Felix Hernandez. So I literally have like 1/4 of all perfect game tossers in MLB history.
The reserves. From Atlanta in his first All-Star game, Bruce Benedict. From the San Diego Padres, All-Star catcher in his first All-Star game, Terry Kennedy. And from the Chicago Cubs at first base in his first All-Star game, Bill Buckner. And well, 5 years later, you all know what would happen with Bill Buckner. Let's say about 30 years later to be on a great episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Oh, hold on, Mike. Do you think this is the first appearance of somebody who was on Just Men in this All-Star game? In his 8th All-Star game for the Los Angeles Dodgers first base, Steve Garvey. I know you don't want to say the obvious joke with Steve Garvey. I appreciate it, Mike. You have class.
No, I was going to make a comment about Just Men, but more about that in a few minutes.
From the Pittsburgh Pirates at this third All-Star game at second base, Phil Garner. Now, hold on a second, guys. I recently got, because he did a private signing, I got from my brother's 87 autographed Topps collection, his 87 Topps signed. And also I got his 07 Topps card signed when he was manager of the Astros. Because also my brother collects signed 2007 signed Topps cards. Why he does that, I don't know. But I kind of like the 07 Topps because they had like the black borders and such.
It sounds like he's really like me. When I get autographed cards, I really aim to get 1983 Topps cards signed because that, in my opinion, is the greatest card set in the history of the hobby.
In his second All-Star game from the champion Phillies at second base, Manny Trio at third base from the Pittsburgh Pirates in his second All-Star game, Bill Madlock. Now, I know I brought up the Baseball Bunch episode, how I have that signed Upper Deck SP Legendary Cuts jersey card of his that I think I might have posted onto the show Instagram. If not, I'll probably post it one day. It's a sweet card that I got signed. At shortstop, in his first All-Star game, his only All-Star game as a San Diego Padre, Ozzie Smith. Because as we all know, Ozzie Smith the next year would be traded to St. Louis for Gary Templeton. Now, here's our second Just Men connection. In his first All-Star game for the Dodgers, Dusty Baker. And really, what can we say about Dusty Baker? Not only was he a 3-time World Series manager, one with the Giants in 2002 and twice with the Astros, where he won a championship in 2022. But also, he invented the high five. In his first All-Star game from the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mike Easler. I think I got a signed Topps 87 card of his from a show a couple of years ago. In his first All-Star game from the Los Angeles Dodgers, Pedro Guerrero. He was a very big player back in the 80s, Mike.
He was very big with both the Dodgers and the Cardinals.
Yeah. In his first All-Star game from the Montreal Expos, future Hall of Famer Tim Raines. And in his first All-Star game from the New York Mets, Joel Youngblood. Now, Joel Youngblood would be known for one thing. The following year in 1982, he would be traded to the Montreal Expos and have the rare distinction of being the only player in Major League Baseball history to play on two different teams in one day. Because he played with the Mets in the day game, got traded, went to wherever the Expos were playing, and played that same day too. And also there's at one point, because I'm guessing he didn't bring his batting helmet with him. He was wearing an Atlanta batting helmet. Because I think I showed that to you in the pre-show. So I don't know what happened with that. It's kind of like the case how in 85 where Lou Whitaker didn't have a jersey with him. So they actually literally bought like a Tigers jersey, like a replica jersey, and put a 1 in Sharpie on the back of his jersey so he could have a jersey for the All-Star game. True story.
Well, what it reminds me of, there was a Bulls basketball game in Orlando back in, I think it was like 90 or so, and Michael Jordan's jersey got stolen before the game. They didn't have another jersey for him to wear. I think he got a fan's jersey. It was like a number 12 jersey, and he wore that for the game. And actually, I think on Sam Vincent's 1990-91 Hoops card, you can see Jordan wearing that number 12 jersey.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that card graded. Yep. Okay, now let's get into the American League reserves. From Cleveland in his first All-Star game, Bo Diaz. Now, Mike, you had a Bo Diaz story you wanted to share with us.
This is morbid, just warning you. Do you guys know how Bo Diaz passed away in 1990?
No.
He was installing a big-ass satellite dish, and it fell on him. It crushed him. That wasn't the reaction I was expecting, but that's the truth.
Laugh at that.
He lived in Colombia, and he was putting a satellite dish up, one of those big honking satellite dishes they had back in the late 80s and early 90s, and it fell on him. It crushed him to death.
No. Remember how when we did the Booger on Monday Night Football episode, we made the joke about how it would have been hilarious if the Booger Mobile fell and like 20 people died from the Booger Mobile falling on them.
That's your take.
Yes. Look, I know it's a gruesome situation, but that made me think of when we joked about the Booger Mobile. I'm sorry. Okay. From the Milwaukee Brewers at catcher in his 7th All-Star game, Ted Simmons. I believe Hall of Famer.
Went in last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Ted Simmons, it wasn't last year. Believe it or not, it was 2020, 5 years ago.
Wow.
It doesn't feel like that long.
Well, obviously a long-time St. Louis Cardinal. And actually played against them in the 82 series, when the Brewers won the American League Championship. In his second All-Star game with Baltimore, Eddie Murray, a legendary career that man had, obviously. And he was with Cleveland in the 95 team, right?
He was on the 95 team, as was Dave Winfield, actually, yes.
Yeah. In his 5th All-Star game with Texas, Al Oliver at first base. And then at second base for the Kansas City Royals in his 3rd All-Star game, Frank White. And then in his 3rd All-Star game with Texas, Buddy Bell. Now, Mike, Buddy Bell got a big ovation from the crowd, and I asked you if there was a reason for that. So, what's the reason?
Buddy Bell started his career in Cleveland. He played with the Indians from 1972 until 1978. If you're a good person, Cleveland will not forget about you in a good way.
From the California Angels in his 4th All-Star game, Rick Burleson. And let me just, his nickname was Rooster. And former Boston Red Sox teammate, spaceman Bill Lee, once said of him, some guys didn't like to lose, but Rick got angry if the score was even tied. Oh, man. Guys, on April 29th, 2020, you know what happened?
He had a really nice birthday.
Yes, how'd you know?
Lucky guess.
In his first All-Star game with the Oakland A's, Tony Armas Sr. He was a steady hand for a lot of years. In his second All-Star game with the Boston Red Sox, Dwight Evans. In his 7th All-Star game, representing the California Angels, Fred Lynn. Now it'd be 2 years later that Fred Lynn would have his All-Star Game MVP performance, and to this day is the only man in the history of the All-Star Game to hit a Grand Slam home run. As the lone Seattle Mariners representative of his first All-Star Game, I'm going to butcher the of this name.
I was going to say, I'll back you up on this.
Yes.
Tom Paciorek.
Wow, when you said Paciorek, I thought, is he related to Pete Sherrick, the former Met?
No. Paciorek.
Oh, it's with a P. And in his first All-Star game, representing the Milwaukee Brewers, Gorman Thomas. Let me see if I can get any information about Gorman Thomas. Gorman Thomas was a 2-time American League home run leader and is in the Milwaukee Brewers Wall of Honor at 268 home runs and 782 RBIs, despite only batting 225. So he's kind of maybe like an American League Dave Kingman. Mike, do you appreciate that I made a good Dave Kingman reference?
I appreciate not just a Dave Kingman reference, but I appreciate you also mentioning Gorman Thomas because he is a Brewers legend.
Oh, definitely.
Jeez H. Christ, Greg, you didn't mention the managers were Dallas Green of the world champion Philadelphia Phillies and Jim Fry of the defending American League champion Kansas City Royals. I mean, what are you even doing, Greg? You're making comments about obscure New York Mets and you ignore this. You are slacking, dude.
Now let's get into finally this freaking game, okay? So, the American League started with 4 shutout innings from Jack Morris and Len Barker. Meanwhile, Fernando pitched a scoreless inning. He got 2 strikeouts. And then in the second inning, Ken Singleton led off it with a home run off of Tom Seaver. Now, I want to say, was it during the 3rd or 4th inning? And Mike, can you give me the timestamp?
I think it was 121:15.
Okay, let me just get that real quick. We're at this moment after the Ken Singleton home run in the second inning. The AL has a 1-0 lead. Len Barker's coming onto the mound. It's a great moment. The hometown player is going to come in, get this great ovation from the Municipal Stadium crowd. He's getting ready to pitch in the All-Star game. And, well, this is going to happen to Len.
Here we go again. We've had an interference on the... Is that the Kissing Bandit? That's Morgana.
Yep.
Has kissed George Brett, Frank Howard, a number of others.
It's Morgana, the Kissing Bandit.
Now, kids, you might not know who Morgana the Kissing Bandit is. So, Mike, can you explain to our listeners who Morgana the Kissing Bandit was? For those youngins who don't know.
Why are you doing this to me? Back in the day, and we're talking 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s to an extent, this woman who is heavily endowed, she was blessed. I don't think she bought her. Yeah, those. But she would run onto the field wearing basically a loose t-shirt, and she'd be wearing short shorts, and she would go straight to a player and kiss them. And soon after, because the security back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s was maybe a little on the lax side. You'd have security run to the mound or run to the base and grab her and take her off. And sometimes she was cheered for being taken off, but also there's times where, let's say, the males were very upset that she got taken away. So Morgana somehow slipped onto Cleveland Municipal Stadium and put a big one right on Lynn Barker for being taken away. But I'm sure you can find compilations of her different appearances, primarily at baseball games. I'm sure she did basketball games as well. Football, I don't think would make much sense because they have masks on. But yeah, she was quite an infamous or maybe famous figure at sporting events. Like I said, up until probably, I'm guessing, the early 90s.
So the National League would finally get on the board in the fifth inning with a solo home run by Gary Carter. Then the following inning, in the top of the sixth, Dave Parker would homer to make it 2-1. Now, our good buddy Bert Hooton would come into the game for the National League in the sixth inning, but he would give up 3 consecutive singles, and then Fred Lynn would drive it a run to tie it at 2-2. Buddy Bell had a sac fly to make it 3-2, and then a botched double play attempt resulted in only a force out, which enabled Ted Simmons to follow up with an RBI single to make it 4-2. Oh, hold on a second while I'm trying to find that. I found this shirt here that says at 2/11/56, I survived the 1981 baseball strike. What a fine shirt that is.
Well, while you find that, I found some things about Morgana the Kissing Bandit.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, what else did you find about Morgana?
All right, this is from Wikipedia. By 1990, she had kissed 37 Major League Baseball players, 12 NBA players, and dozens of minor league baseball, basketball, and hockey players, plus various umpires, managers, and owners, and once the San Diego Chicken, believe it or not.
What? The San Diego Chicken even got a smooch?
Everybody loves the San Diego Chicken. What can you say? But I'm reading further into this, and I'm getting a laugh out of this about some of the stuff that happened. Like, she got beaten by security guards in Cincinnati. That's not funny. But just reading the rest of this passage, she was on trial in Houston, where her lawyer used what he called the gravity defense to explain her unauthorized presence on the field, arguing, and I quote here, "This woman with a 112-pound body and 15-pound chest leaned over the rail to see a foul ball. Gravity took its toll. She fell out on the field, and the rest is history." The judge laughed and dismissed the case.
Okay, now, before I get to the Dusty Baker play, I have the play here with the low throw by Steve Garvey right here. So I'm going to play it right here on the thing. I got it all muted here. So there's a ground ball that's hit by Eddie Murray here. I think Rod Carew jumps out of the way. There's the low throw that Ozzie Smith just scoops up right here. Probably would have prevented the run from scoring, but the low throw prevented what would have been an inning-ending double play right here. And we're seeing it at another angle right here. Yep.
Doesn't miss a beat, though.
That shows you how good of a fielder Ozzie Smith was right there. Okay, so the American League, they have a chance for their big inning to continue. They got first and second with 2 out, and then this happens.
A single by Simmons, and here we are with Oliver up there, 2 men out. It's popped up. Ozzie Smith going out hard. Tough play. Dusty Baker makes the play. Oh, what a play he made.
Dusty Baker on a diving catch. Gotta love it.
I don't know if the run would have scored from second base, but it would have prevented at least bases loaded. So that was a very big game-saving catch for the National League right there. We're going to go into the top half of the 7th inning. Gary Carter would get his second home run of the All-Star Game off of Ron Davis. And then in the 8th inning, Raleigh Fingers would walk Ozzie Smith. And then Ozzie was caught in a rundown and then later tagged out by Raleigh Fingers. But then following that, Mike Easler would walk and put Mike Schmidt up to the plate. Actually, before we get to the Mike Schmidt home run, I do have the rundown with Ozzie queued up. So let me play it right here.
There he goes, a big jump. Good ball to handle, thrown into center field. And now Smith's going to try for third. They got him hung up. Buddy Bell to Burleson. And now Fingers has to cover. And Smith falls and it's all over. Everybody's down.
Now, let's just describe what happened here. Bo Diaz made like one of the crappiest looking throws to try to throw Ozzie out that I've ever seen in my life. And then hilarity ensued. So the center fielder picked it up, threw it to the third baseman, threw it back. So I'm guessing then Raleigh tags him. So I'm trying to think how you would score this. Okay, it's 2, 8, 5. Guessing that's the second baseman. So it'd be 2, 8, 5, 4, 1. Because there'd be a stolen base at second. And then, well, you can't really give him an error on Diaz because he didn't really advance the third. I guess you would call that a stolen base. And then maybe I'm guessing a technical caught stealing 2, 8, 5, 4, 1. But oh, hold on a second. I have it queued up right before the Schmidt home run here. We're looking at Ozzie in the dugout right here. And I'm guessing he's like got a towel trying to wipe the dirt off himself. And there's Bill Buckner right in his like sweet ass Chicago Cubs baby blue jersey right there. Okay, now let's finally do it. Here's the Mike Schmidt home run.
Straight away center field. Winfield is going back, way back. He'll not get this one.
I gotta say though, Dave Winfield did make a nice attempt trying to get to the ball. He made a nice jump, but he was well short. As I believe, yeah, the ball just, I think, struck onto that NBC camera right there. So the National League would hold on as Bruce Sutter would get the save, as the NL would win 5-4, and Gary Carter with his 2 home runs was named the All-Star Game MVP. That would be the first of 2 All-Star Game MVPs for Gary Carter, because he would be the All-Star Game MVP again in 1984 at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, where he would be the battery with a young pitcher from the Mets by the name of Dwight Gooden, who would be his teammate 1 year later. So that is the 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. So, Mike, this wasn't your area. I bet people still talk about this game all the time, 44 years later.
I wouldn't say that. I think a lot of people went to it. The attendance for that game was, I think, some ridiculously large number. I mean, it was a huge stadium to begin with, but I think the attendance was like in the 70,000 range. So at least they're able to get fans to go back to the stadium after the big strike. But I do think my parents went because somewhere there's a program from the 1981 All-Star Game. Probably not in my house. It's probably at my dad's house. But I remember seeing it. So, yeah, did they go to the game? They might have. Otherwise, did they just go to the stadium and pick up a program afterwards? I have no idea.
There might have been some shops selling the program.
Well, I should have actually asked Dad before the show if I thought about it. Hey, Dad, did you and Mom go to the All-Star Game? And the thing is, I'm sure tickets were pretty inexpensive. May have been probably $10 or less at the time. But like I said, he's got some paraphernalia from that All-Star Game, which tends me to believe that he did attend it. And actually, I'm just taking a look at Chico's background, which is Cleveland Municipal Stadium. I sat right there for the final 3 games. No, I just love, yeah, you're just like pointing around the stadium. So I sat in those seats for the final 3 games at Cleveland Municipal Stadium in 1993. And Chico, I think, just gave up on the whole endeavor. No, up. To your right. To your left. Slowly. Go back. Go back. Stop. Right there. Yeah, probably about right there. Would have been upper deck left field. We happened to get 4 tickets for me and mom, dad, and my sister, and we went to the final 3 games. Or actually, I think the only person who went to all 3 games was me, because I think my sister and mom and dad were like, I don't want to go on a Saturday afternoon. It's like, okay then. But I still have the tickets actually downstairs from that. They framed them and gave it to me for Christmas back in 1993, and I need to get a new frame for it because their brass frame or whatever it is rusted out, or brass colored frame. I don't think brass rusts, but regardless, I sat right there, and that was good times back in 1993. Did I tell you I met Martin Mull after a Browns game at Municipal Stadium?
You mention that all the time, Mike, and he got him signed on a player line card.
Yeah, because I happened to be working down there, and then as I was leaving, I heard some guy say, "Hey, Martin Mull, I'm a big fan of yours." And it's like, where's the card? I have the card on me just for this purpose. Yeah, just in case. And Mr. Mull, can you sign my card? And then that's another thing I've got in my collection.
Well, what can we say about the 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game?
I can say hold on. I can say one thing. Man, if you've ever been in Cleveland Municipal Stadium, you don't forget the smell of it, because they had friggin' troughs in the men's restroom, and it smelled like piss for like 60 years. I would not be surprised if right now at Cleveland Brown Stadium, which is on the same land that Cleveland Municipal Stadium was at, if that just happened to smell like piss, because that essence has been lingering for the last 30 years.
Oh, you can feel the piss in the air in Cleveland.
I could have swore they wrote a song about the piss in the air in Cleveland.
He was in that Randy Newman song in Major League. I don't know. What can we say about the 1981 Major League Baseball All-Star Game? Baseball came back after the strike. The fans, they were kind of happy to have baseball back. Gary Carter hit some dingers. And we all had some great time in Cleveland in 1981. I am sure Bob Hope, he was in the audience with George Bush. I'm sure they had a great time when they saw Morgana the Kissing Bandit.
I was going to say, you know who had the best time of all? It was Len Barker.
Well, he sure did. And it gave us a great thing on TV. Now, guys, how about for this episode, we have a special All-Star edition of non-eBay Price is Right.
Ooh, it's sexy sex time, everybody.
Now, this is going to be a solo game. So, Chico, we're going to play this clock game style. Mike knows what the price is for this. So, you're bidding on pastpros.com. The complete set of Len Barker's 1981 cards signed. So, it's his 1981 Topps, his 1981 Fleer, his 1981 Donruss, all signed. So you're going to be bidding on the combined prices of all 3 of the cards that are signed by Len Barker.
All right.
Now, I should note 1981 was notable because this was the first year of Fleer and Donruss making Major League Baseball cards.
Yeah, I remember having a few of the Donruss 81 cards.
Now, the Donruss 81s were nice, but I kind of prefer the 81 Fleer. I kind of like that look of the card with whatever like script font they used on the ball for the team.
I get you.
But the 81 Donruss design was pretty good too. Mike, do you have a clock ready for this?
Give me a second and I can pull one up.
All right.
So we are doing this clock game style, which means the clock does not start until my first bid.
Correct.
We're going 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I'm all set.
Chico, Give me your first bid.
500.
Lower.
300.
Lower.
100.
Lower.
50.
Higher.
75.
Lower.
67.
Lower.
60.
Yep.
14 and a half seconds.
What up?
All right, now hold on a second. $20 an autograph. Meanwhile, as I go into the Klaus archive, where are you hiding, Len Barker? Oh, you're not hiding here because you're a newer autograph, so I got you what?
He's hiding with Morgana, the Kissing Bandit.
No. Oh, jeez. No, he's in a different part of my this binder. So yeah, you could have gotten. So you could have paid $20 for each Len Barker autograph, or you could have gotten a VIP pass to the National last year and gotten a Len Barker autograph.
Oh,
but then also you could have gone to the 455 Club holiday event last December and gotten not just one Len Barker autograph, but two. And you would have gotten fed, and you would have gotten a couple of autographs from Kevin Mack, former Cleveland Brown.
Oh. You know what I would have sung for Kevin Mack? Return of the Mack by Mac Morrison.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I tried to tell you so, but I guess you didn't know. As I said, the story go. Baby, now I got the flow.
Nothing will beat that one Burger King commercial a couple years ago with the king for mac and Cheetos. Return of the mac and Cheetos.
No!
Okay, now you see, you're talking about Kevin Mack, and I had actually ordered cards off of Sport Lots for him, but stupid me only ordered them like 2 weeks ahead of time, so they didn't come in before the event. But what I would have gotten signed is 1993 Upper Deck.
Okay.
And actually, the one I was really waiting for, the one I really wanted, 1,000-Yard Club in 1986.
Oh, I love those 1,000-Yard Club cards.
That's why I was going to get that signed, because I love them too.
Probably still get that signed one day, so.
Eventually, yeah.
Hopefully. All right. Now let's go to the close.
You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time.
Okay, our next episode, guys. Well, we celebrated this man's birthday 4 years ago. Well, guess what? We're going to be celebrating his birthday again this year. But we're going to be celebrating it by working out.
Wait, we're going to be talking about Richard Simmons?
No, we're not going to be talking about Richard Simmons. Hold on, I've just thought of something, okay? Now, if Richard Simmons was somehow in the Knots Link episode where Gary Ewing got drunk in season 1, this is probably what he would have said.
Gary! Gary! Gary, where are you?
It's funny because I'm laughing because I understood the reference. Both of them.
Now you know how Steve Rogers felt when he understood the Flying Monkeys joke in The Avenger.
I understood that reference.
Who is this person that we're going to be discussing the birthday for? I don't know, but you're going to have to follow that in our next episode of It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you for listening. I'm Greg. That was Mike, and that was Chico. And we'll see you with that episode, celebrating that birthday next time. Wow!
Since 1933, the All-Star Game has been a highlight of the baseball season. This is the 12th consecutive year fans have voted to help select the All-Star teams. You can continue the tradition by voting for this year's starting lineups in the nation's largest non-political election. Ballots are available free at retail stores featuring a Gillette All-Star display and at major and minor league parks. Balloting ends July 1st, so be sure and get out and vote.
Furnished by Major League Baseball and Gillette.
You know, hearing the background music, I'm kind of shocked that neither Greg nor myself brought up the fact that NBC used a sort of jazzed up version of the Jerry Goldsmith Star Trek The Motion Picture theme.
Oh, yeah. Because also when I think of the Jerry Goldsmith Star Trek The Motion Picture theme being used outside of Star Trek, you know what I think of? Those showcases on The Price is Right for the time capsule showcases.
Bingo.
Yeah. Must be a slow news day in the future because they're reporting on a time capsule being discovered. And also, newspapers exist in the future? What?
Okay, you friggin' nerds. Get off of that and let's talk about Mel Allen there.
That's right, guys. You know, you could be talking about those showcases. I had a ball doing those showcases, but I want to talk about Mel Allen with Mike.
How about that?